Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Mid-South Wrestling Review Series for the uh, date of August 28th, 1982. And we will be back with the remainder of the year, hopefully by at latest Tuesday evening, but might even be able to get it in partially today. Anyway, um, August is a big month for Mid South. Um, Although things really heat up, it seems like maybe November. Although they're moving towards the area of the Superdome at that time. I don't know if they did Superdome once or twice a year at that point. I'm not really sure. But we move towards Mike Sharp and Mike Bond, the Battle of the Mikes here. Um, and there's some nothing really notable on this. Seems more like a straight wrestling show. No real angles here. But Sharp is your, I believe, Louisiana champion eventually here. Is the championship he's holding? He's holding on to that, and he is, shoving off against Mike Bond, but Sharp being that new champion, and again, tackle by Sharp, and Sharp up and over, hits a leapfrog of his own, tries to get the arm drag, doesn't get all he wants on it. Bond manages to pick the leg, doesn't hold up very well, but I shot to the midsection and a pile driver. Pile drivers are a big deal at this time. And a cover and a win for Mike Sharp in pretty quick fashion. Then we move to Killer Khan versus Coco Samoa is the next match on the card. And Coco Samoa was pushed a little heavier in the last few months, 2 or 3 months ago. Seems to be 50-50 in the booking now, although he was given enough wins in the beginning where he's taken credibly. Of course, Khan, the former Louisiana state champion, so here's a novel concept: the idea that a championship would change hands on a house show on the loop, and then they acknowledge it on TV. Who does that these days? Anyway, choke out by Khan. Khan does normally come with Skandor Akbar. Akbar seems to be intermittent from the match, at least during the beginning parts of it. And we see several chops, chokes, and uses of the ropes as weapons by the former Louisiana champion there. Hot shot, stun gun type maneuver by Khan in the midpoint, and then we see Khan go to the second rope on the inside, drop the knee, 1, 2, 3, and Killer Khan back on his winning ways in the area. And then we move to Mr. Wrestling 2. I'm sorry. No, we don't. We are out of sequence there. Hacksaw Duggan and Frank Monty. Again in a quick match. This week literally seems to be 5 or 6 matches, all meant to be quick to get stars on television, and that does matter sometimes. If you're trying to get houses up, if you're trying to get new stars over, getting guys on television, one way to do that. Ride time by Duggan after a waistlock takedown. Duggan obviously having the power, the wherewithal, and the dominance to do that. Then we see a huge toss, hip toss out of the corner. Duggan stomping his way and pretty dominant. Duggan also hits a couple of shots, and Monty makes his way out the back door, which is kind of surprising after the punishment he's taken. He hasn't really mounted much of an offense early. Swinging neckbreaker by Duggan. Duggan always kind of looked to me to be off kilter when hitting the swinging neckbreaker. Just not a move that I ever necessarily liked to see him do or bought him doing. Vertical suplex, though, on the other hand, a falling back vertical suplex by Big Jim Duggan, and then he pulls up his man pretty aggressively, assertively, and a back elbow by Duggan. Duggan keeping things under wraps for himself. Irish whip, and the like, and a big back body drop out of the corner um, included. And Monty manages to fire back with a few shots. I don't know if that's more to keep his favor or what that's about, but he does manage to fire back. Duggan takes him into the corner and dominates him there. That running kind of Oklahoma Stampede type maneuver by Duggan, 1, 2, 3, gets him a victory. And then we move on. Moving on to more action. This time, Ted DiBiase and Dick Murdock, probably the what I would consider the main event of the particular program. DiBiase still your North American heavyweight champion, and a guy like Dick Murdock getting an opportunity, even if it's non-title, to be in there with the champion, a big deal to most fans, I would imagine, in that particular phrase and time. And Murdock going at it with DiBiase. Of course, Murdock having a small hand in training DiBiase because of the Texas tie-in with the Funks and such. Murdock bounces DiBiase around pretty quickly, and the North American champion heads to the floor in a hurry. They do the chase spot, although not even a chase, more like DiBiase running away and Murdock claiming he's going to follow. That leads to the shots by DiBiase while he has Murdock in the ropes. Doesn't really care about much other than getting the advantage as he sees fit. Snapmares him over the shoulder and drops the knee. DiBiase does take a few shots as Murdock is fighting up. And Murdock bites on DiBiase, the top of the head. Even a babyface can have aggression if there's enough of a history, and I think fans would know the history, at least partially, of Murdock and DiBiase if they follow Texas or if they follow the magazines. Remember the After Mags, or the Stanley Weston Mags more accurately, were a big thing at the time, and they would know the history of different territories. Duggan makes his way out partway through. Several shots from Murdock. Murdock not slowing down. DiBiase with a cheap shot and gets an advantage going back his way for a moment. Big back body drop by DiBiase. And amazing to me that Murdock would take that kind of a bump. Just back body drops are so rare now that when I see someone take one, even if it's as long as it's not horrible, it's a big deal. Elbow to the top of the head of DiBiase by Murdock, and again DiBiase with a big body slam, finally getting some offense back, but because he's been pretty well dominated for a little while here. Murdock out the back door in a hurry with that, and DiBiase not happy when tries to keep Murdock down and at bay, having more difficulty than I imagined he was going to have. Murdock does the single leg pick and goes to work on the leg of DiBiase. If you are an independent wrestler looking for match psychology in a match where title's not really meant to change hands, you don't have a major feud, this match worth going out of your way to see. You see Murdock manages to hit almost an Indian deathlock type maneuver and sits down, tries to get a submission in the deathlock / ankle pick type situation. DiBiase sends Murdock off face first into the buckle. Meanwhile, Murdock brawls with him, sends him through the ropes, and not in a friendly way, to the outside. Gets him back in, and DiBiase cuts him off. DiBiase not intimidated by the veteran Murdock. Atomic drop, and Murdock manages to go and hit the three-quarter O'Connor roll. Kick off. Duggan and Murdock go head-to-head together as Duggan is up on the apron. DiBiase manages to get a few cheap shots in and take back over on Murdock because of Duggan's involvement. Snaps him over. Does DiBiase, who is not the least bit impressed with the action that is here. And when I say not impressed, it means he's just keeping coming regardless. Duggan on the outside looking like he wants to jump in there. Big back body drop. And if you are a second or a manager, when your guy gets hurt, running in and actually doing something or selling from the outside if it's not your time to do something worth doing. Referee goes down right as Murdock has Dibiase up, and Duggan runs in, hits that diving spear-like maneuver, and Dibiase holds on to the North American Championship. Mr. Wrestling 2 against Billy Starr is up next, and that is a pretty big deal for Billy Starr. Mr. Wrestling 2, a pretty big star in his own right. Wrestling 2 will be in a more figured-in program in the weeks to come here, so stay here for that. Short knee, although not the running knee lift, by Wrestling 2 early. It snaps him over and then stays with the headlock for a little bit. Wrestling 2 sits out with the headlock, not very impressed with his adversary at the moment. And then we see a continuation of the arm lock takeover and the headlock takeover as well. Wrestling 2 manages to hit the running knee, get the victory in pretty quick order. 2 matches remain, although I don't think the final one gets a finish. We move to, after Mr. Wrestling 2's victory here, we move to Colonel Buck Robley and Tug Taylor. Robley, they still haven't really found a major role for at the time. They are kind of vacillating him with Akbar's bunch, but he's, kind of just there. Anyway, so Robley comes into the ring, gets, some brawling type stuff done there, and then gets Taylor snapped over, but with less than 6 full minutes left in the program and another match to go. They're not terribly worried about what Robley's up to, I don't think, here, if they're trying to get one-man gang on the program too. Anyway, Robley holds on to the arm for a few minutes, doesn't really do anything too aggressive to Tug Taylor, but at the same time, gets 2 or 3 minutes on television. Remember, television not paid. It's your advertisement to get people to come see you at live events. Back when they did live events, and I'm not even talking COVID. Many wrestling companies struggling to get houses because they're trying to be television wrestling, and that's not what the average fan wants. The average fan, the casual fan does, but the average long-term fan wants the wrestling they remember, and I think promoters forget that. Obviously, Robley gets the win, and then we go to the final match of the day with less than 3 minutes remaining. One-man gang against Romo, and obviously Gang gets some power here. Very basic, hit some forearms, nothing major. Akbar has been at ringside doing commentary throughout the hour. That's kind of useful in that he's trying to get himself over and get his stable over as well. Of course, that's the role of a manager, which I think has been forgotten. We get a lot of talkers who don't know how to talk people into the seats, and that is frustrating. Of course, not everyone can be Paul Heyman, but still, you want your talkers to serve a purpose out there. Anyway, Gang hits a diving elbow, 1, 2, and 3, hits a victory for him, and we move forward into the month of September here in Mid-South in 1982. We'll be back with more right after this.